What's up, guys? So today what we're going to go through is how I budget using the EveryDollar app. The EveryDollar app is the Ramsey Solutions budgeting app that I've personally used for probably 3 or 4 years by now. And it's got a lot of cool tools. It's got a lot of helpful insights and analytics, as well as Ramsey Solutions video tutorials and those types of things. And so what we're going to go through today is my, kind of how I budget the things in my life that I have to plan for and the way that I take care of all of that. So let's hop into it. Okay, so when you pop into the EveryDollar app, this is usually the first thing that you'll see is it'll say, start planning for whatever month that you're in. And so if we go, we'll use October because it's September right now. And usually what we do is on the 25th of every month, we plan our budget for the following month. That gives us kind of a little bit of a grace period. If we need to change something before we start the month off, then we can do that and we can kind of plan for it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to say start planning for October. I already used this account back in July to illustrate to someone in my coaching practice the power of EveryDollar. And so what EveryDollar does is it copies over whatever previous budget you have made in previous months. So, but I think it's blank. The July one is blank, and so it'll just bring in a blank slate. And so this is what it looks like. You've got your budget, your main budget, and then you have your transactions here on the right. We're going to delete this dummy date night transaction. And so the way that EveryDollar works is there is a planned column, and then there's a received / remaining or a remaining / spent column. And so you have your income, and then you have all of your expenses. Your income starts at the top, and then you work down your expenses to figure out where you get that perfect $0 budget. The goal of this is to get all of your income accounted for, every dollar of it allocated to something, whether it's savings or expenses, giving, whatever. And so for just the start of this, also I apologize, my keyboard is going to be clicky. If we start this, so we have $2,000 for our first paycheck, and we have $2,000 for our second paycheck. This is roundabout what my budget or what my income looks like. What I do is I only budget money that's take home pay. You could budget your gross income, but then there's a lot of like savings accounts, 401ks, benefits, elections that you make through your employer that take away from your take home pay. And then if you did your gross pay and something like this, you'd have to track all that stuff as well. I just say like, okay, I know I have health insurance through my company. I know that that's all taken care of. I'm just going to deal with what money comes in. And so if I have $2,000 for each paycheck, then that is what's actually hitting my bank account. And I ought to just know what's already been accounted for. So then as you go through you can toggle between spending or spent and remaining. That's not important for the time being. What you want to do is look at the past months and look at your life really to see what is your spending normally look like, and what do you want to set as a target for the future. And so if I have $4,000 worth of income, then say for the church, I'd look to tithe $400, and that would be, my charity or my giving. You can also, add and delete. Like if I wanted to delete this charity item, then I could delete that, and that's fine. I could also add an item back if I wanted to. If I have an emergency fund going on, then either I can plan to add to it. So say if we go into this fund, we go to fund detail and we say current balance. We say we currently have $4,500, and then I plan another $500 for this month. And then my total will come out to a remaining $5,000. Funds are one of the really unique and good tools through Every Dollar. I think it's really helpful because basically what a fund does is it carries over from month to month, whatever the balance is. And so if next month I also planned $500, it'll remember that I had put $500 in October, and it would then go to $5,500. And you can do that with a bunch of different things. My wife uses it for cosmetic money. If we budget a certain amount for her, then some months she doesn't spend anything, and some months she spends double what we allotted. And so funds are a good way to chase those non-typical expenses. So we go down. We'll keep trying to keep it similar to mine. Church is similar. Emergency fund, we'll say 0. We keep about a 3-month emergency fund, and so this would look more like $6,000 or $7,000, something like that. Mortgage or rent, we rent at the moment for around $1,150. Our water bill, usually I estimate at the beginning of the month, depending on the season and stuff, what my utilities are going to be, but we'll say $120. Editor James here. My wife and I were reviewing this YouTube video, and she was like, "Do we pay $120 for water?" I was like, "No, we don't." So, thanks to her, I caught that, but it doesn't really change the calculation of this video. But I thought I'd throw that in there, that we're not getting gouged on water, everyone. So, all right, back to the video. For natural gas, we'll guess 60. For electric, we'll guess 100. Cable, we don't have cable, and we don't have trash, but we do have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi we have through Spectrum is a little high at $75, but here we are. And so when you go through that exercise, this is just for the housing group. Again, you can make different groups for these line items. It's all up to you. But as you can see, after planning these numbers out, I can then look up at the top and it says you have this amount of money left to budget. And so basically what it's taking that $4,000 and it's subtracting out my expenses that I've plugged in so far. And so for church, for housing, this is what I have left to keep going down with my budget. So if we go down to transportation, we see gas, we'll say, $250 for gas this month. Maintenance, we'll say 100. Maintenance is one of those where unless you're getting an oil change every month, which is highly doubtful, I usually make this a fund. And so if we go over here, you can see, okay, make this a fund. I'll move myself a little bit so you can see this. Oops. If we go to fund, we say make this a fund. Now you can say what the current balance is, but you could just leave it blank and have it be a fund anyway. Because then if I plan $100, then next month if I have, I have to do the transmission fluid on my car, then I'll have $200 to use for that. So with stuff like that, funds are definitely a helpful tool. Groceries, there's 2 of us, and we like to, get good quality beef and those types of things. So usually $450. Restaurants, maybe 100 for date nights, for whatever. And then we go down to personal. So our personal budget has a personal category for both my wife and myself separately. And so we can kind of see, we have a section dedicated to us, which is very helpful so that we're not, pulling from the same clothing fund or whatever. And so for clothing, we'll just take, if I were single and this were just my personal, then I'd say, okay, well, for clothing, maybe I spend $25 a month. I probably don't. I don't buy clothes. Phone bill, we'll say 45 because if we're saying that this is only me. Fun money, we usually put like 100 to 150. Fun money in our minds is basically money that you can do whatever you want with. You can just, you don't have to tell the other person. You can just go out, spend it, no big deal. So that's kind of the flexibility that you have with some fun money. Hair and cosmetics, maybe $20 for a monthly haircut. Subscriptions, if I have, Netflix, Spotify, whatever, maybe it's $40 is the total of that. Pet care, we don't have pets. Children, we don't have children yet. Entertainment, we could say maybe, if we want to set up a movie budget or something like that, then maybe we could put stuff in there. Miscellaneous, I actually highly recommend putting at least $50 to $100 in miscellaneous, because then you can have a little bit of float if some weird expense comes up in the middle of the month. I find that is always something that is helpful for us. Then we have gym. I usually pay $129 for my jiu-jitsu gym, medicine and vitamins. This is obviously very dependent on what your situation is, but you can, budget in regular checkups and those types of things. Health insurance, life insurance, auto insurance down here in the insurance category. So this is where I don't think we have anything. I think down here we really have auto insurance, which again we use as a fund. So if I go over here and I say fund, make this a fund, and I say save, then it comes up with this little piggy bank icon, and that makes it a fund. And then over here I'd make it like $280, and that is what we pay in our both auto insurance and renter's insurance for the year, broken into 12 parts. And so making that a fund, and then you can also set a target goal or target due date for that transaction. And so I think, oh, just kidding. This is for if it hits every month. Don't worry about that. But if the target month is, say, $3,000, then you can save that. Setting a fund just makes it carry over from month to month, and I find that that's very helpful. And so auto insurance, I could make auto insurance and renters, and then I could do it. I could just delete this one. Identity theft, no. So down here you can also add debts. Now we do not have any debt, thankfully, but you could say you have a car that you need to pay off. You can go and you can select the type of debt that it is. You could say the current balance on the debt is $7,000. The minimum monthly payment is, we'll say, $450. The interest rate is, let's say, 6%, and the original balance, we'll just say that we just bought this car or something like that. So if we add this debt, then you can go in and you can say, okay, I want to plan to pay, the minimum monthly payment of $450 plus, $150. So we pay $600. That's a way that you can incorporate debt payments into your budget. And so now if you look at this, we look up here at the top and we say, oh no, we're $144 over budget. So that's no good. So what we could do is we go back up to the top and we start working our way back down. I look at my, tithe to the church. I'd like that to remain at 10%. Emergency fund, we're not already putting anything in there. All these utilities are most likely static. I can't really edit those. Gas might be static. Maybe I could say, okay, well, I'm not going to drive, to a particular destination spot this month and save some money there, and I could maybe lower that. But then we come down to some of these more flexible items. So we go down and we say, okay, well, we can't spend $100 on restaurants this month. Maybe we spend $50. That will take that $50 out from our overage. And we still go down here and we say, okay, sorry, James, you get no money. For clothes, phone bill, again, one of those expenses that just stays the same. Maybe a haircut I can push off till next month. And then for fun money, maybe this month it's just not in the cards to have 150. I'm gonna have to be a little bit more frugal, and we go to 100. And then usually, if I have just a small dollar amount left, I'll put it in miscellaneous, just so that I get that beautiful "it's an every dollar budget" icon. And so then as you work through the month, basically what you do is you go over to your transactions over here. You have your summary, which is, you can see your plan, you can see how much you've spent so far, and then the remaining amounts in each line item. If you go over your transactions, you can hit this plus button, and this is where you actually will track whatever you spend. And so if I say, I spent if I spent $12 on Spotify, I can go and choose this item or choose a budget item. I go down here to subscriptions and I say track expense. Okay. What it's mad at me for is that right now I'm planning a future month and I'm putting an expense that's dated, or transaction that's dated for September. So it's just saying like, hey, are you sure you want to track this in this month? This is from last month. And yes, that's fine for illustrative purposes. So then we go down and we can see out of the subscriptions category that we only have $28 remaining. If we click this and we go to spent, then we can see, okay, that's where that $12 went, is into subscriptions. The other thing that you can do is if you add a transaction and you say, maybe we spent $100 on Amazon. Then we go down and we say, okay, well, part of that was fun money, but then also we can say add a split, and maybe some of that was like some snacks or something. I don't know if you can do that on Amazon or whatever. But then you have two budget line items that you can split from. So if I go into fun money and I say, okay, 50 of that was fun money, I can say 50 of that was in groceries, and then I track expense. Again, it's giving me that same error. Don't worry about it. Then you can see that in the fun money category, there's $50 of that one transaction, and then there's also $50 in the groceries category. And so then you can click on remaining and you can see, okay, I have this much fun money left, I have this much for groceries left, and you can do a split like that. So this is all the free version of Every Dollar. I think it's a fantastic tool. I used it for a long time in the free way, but you can also get the premium version, which is where you can go to accounts and you can connect it directly to your bank, and it'll automatically update with all of the it'll update all of these transactions with your bank in relatively real time. It takes a couple days for the software to update with your bank. If there are pending charges, then it doesn't go through to Every Dollar until it's actually charged. And so some transactions might be maybe 5 to 7 days late, depending on if they are pending, if they're slow, whatever. But yeah, so then as you go through the month, you track your expenses and you compare at the end of the month how you did. If you need to make any adjustments along the way, then you can always go back and you can say, okay, well, if we say, okay, well, water was only $110 this month. We say water utility. I can go to this budget item and I go down to water and I say track expense. If then I look at the water thing, I'm not going to spend another chunk of change on water for this particular month. So I can actually just go back and change my planned amount so that it actually equals the amount of water transaction that happened for this month. And then I have $10 left to play with. And so then maybe I can put that back in my fun money. I can put that toward more debt payment. I can put that toward saving, whatever. And so as you progress through the month, if things change, you can always go back and make adjustments along the way. And so hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Highly recommend checking out EveryDollar as a software. If you guys have a better budgeting solution that you use and prefer, then let me know. But I found this to be very helpful. So hopefully this was helpful, and let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.